Welcome to day two of Become the Go-To Support Expert. So I'll dive straight into slides, and if I can get this to work, that's always really helpful. Present. Please present. Come on, slide over. Let's see if we can do that differently. Make me a little bit smaller. Maybe I can do it that way. Present. There we go. Okay. Right. Okay, so I can't see you while I am presenting, so any questions, just pop them in the chat. I'll fire on through what I want to share with you today, and then obviously come back if you've got any questions, then we'll cover them off as well. So day two is all about looking at the future of menopause support. There is a lot more than I'm going to cover today, and I'm not focusing on the medical aspect of menopause. That is a vitally important, critically important aspect of menopause support, and anybody going through menopause should absolutely be seeing their medical practitioner, their family doctor, their general practitioner, and getting the right access to the right help and support. Now, we know that can be problematic. Equally, our role as support people is to help people prepare for those conversations. It's to help them understand how to map out their symptoms, access their local country's guidelines, and present that information in a way to their first line their doctor, their family practitioner, general practitioner. Present where they're at, what they're experiencing in a way that they can expedite that conversation. But don't underestimate how complex menopause is, how many other things are going on at this time of life, and that it is not going to be easily fixed in one 10-minute conversation. No matter how expert your doctor is, it's unlikely that you're going to have one conversation and everything's going to be taken care of. Even the doctors I work with in my team, even the doctors that I go to for advice and support and to learn from, will always say, a minimum of two consultations. If it's a National Health Service 10-minute, if you're lucky, conversation, then it is likely to take a minimum of two conversations before you reach a decision about a treatment pathway going forward. And that's a critical aspect of menopause support. So, there are many, many things coming to market. There's a lot more available other than hormone replacement therapy or menopause hormone treatment. But these are conversations that are really critical. And no matter what your role is, we should absolutely be preparing our clients and our colleagues to have those conversations. So I'm going to put that to the side and then dive into the rest of what I want to talk about today. So, what does the future of menopause support look like? Well, we know that, excuse me, we know that we are seeing many, many more workplaces doing menopause awareness training, training line managers, and often, going for different certifications and accreditations so that they look to be a menopause savvy and supportive employer. And that's great. But that doesn't make change. That doesn't mean that people are being supported going forward. And I know that because I'm one of the providers that has been delivering menopause awareness training, line management training, running the menopause plan as workshops for people going through menopause, advising on policies and guidance documents, and doing talks at large conferences for 10 years. And I'm still working with many of those organizations because change is a process and change doesn't happen overnight. Now, I'm really fortunate because my background is in global transformation, which means that I have an expertise in systems, people, process change. So I can combine everything that goes into culture change, into systemic change in organizations with the menopause information. And the other thing to be really mindful of, we don't have to have a menopause policy, and we don't have to have menopause as a standalone piece of work. It can fit into different aspects of an organization. So there's many, many different ways that we can look at that. But when we do that, there is a critical component, which is actually supporting the individuals who are going through menopause. Increasingly, employee assistance programs and private medical is beginning to cover menopause in some way, shape, or form. It's fairly haphazard in terms of what's being offered at the moment, and there is no kind of uh, definitive list of what these organizations or benefits packages are putting in front of people to support them. Now, support is not just about supporting the individual going through menopause, it's about supporting the people they're living with, working with, socializing with as well. So I will often get a call from a former colleague who is a man, and he will say, I've had an amazing boss for years, and she's now menopausal, and I don't know how to work with her. So I will get calls from former colleagues from previous jobs where they will be saying to me, how do I manage my boss because she's going through this, or the other way around. So there's lots of different aspects of this, and this is one of the first things to think about is who are you actually here to serve? Who are you trying to help and support? So when we think about supporting people with menopause, there are so many different things that we can do. I mentioned yesterday that I'm training as a yoga teacher at the moment, and I'm not doing that because I want to be a yoga teacher. I'm doing it because I want to understand the philosophy, the breath work, the stillness, the reflection that comes with yoga practice. Yoga is not just about moving the body into funny shapes. It's about much more than that. So one of the reasons I'm studying that is because I can see that there's a correlation between us being able to calm our nervous system and manage our cortisol levels. And the more practices and the more mind-body practice that we have access to, that we can signpost people to, or that we are skilled in and trained in to deliver ourselves can be really helpful to provide to our clients or our colleagues to help them think about how they navigate menopause, how they manage their stress levels, how they can potentially improve their rest and relaxation, their ability to access their calm, their ability to switch off and get a decent night's sleep. Some people go down some people go down the complementary and alternative therapy route, and there is mixed reviews on this. There is some research saying it's highly effective. There's some saying that it's not effective at all, and there's others saying that it's somewhere between the two. So it's really important that we recognize that there is no one size fits all for menopause, and we are still missing a lot of research. There's a lot of work that still has to be done. The reality is, if someone can access a therapy that works for them and it helps them calm and lower their cortisol and feel in a parasympathetic rest digested state, then absolutely that's going to help them feel like they're more in control. So again, is that actually managing symptoms, or is it just giving them a window of opportunity to think more clearly about how they support themselves going forward? If it's helping, that's got to be a good thing. And then one of the other key areas when we start thinking about innovative approaches for holistic well-being is thinking about our nutrition, thinking about how much are we indulging in fast food, in processed foods, and alcohol, caffeine. What's the impact of those things? Some of us will tolerate those things really well, and some of us will not. So it's really important that people have the opportunity to start to understand what works for them, because everyone's different and there isn't a one size fits all with any of this. Some people will swear by intermittent fasting, other people don't get on with it at all. Some people will swear by diet XYZ and other people won't get on with it at all. So it's about experimenting and it's about finding what works for you as an individual as well. And that's really important, that we afford our clients the opportunity to find out what works for them. All of these things, whether it's like mind body spirit practice, complementary or alternative therapy, whether it's looking at our nutrition and our supplementation, all of these things are definitely areas where we can excel in learning and building our expertise and supporting our clients and having that lens of menopause support going through it. So do you know what menopause is? Have you got a good awareness and understanding of the key hormones? Do you know how they are impacting on the other body systems? Do you know the role of oxytocin and serotonin in the body in relation to menopause? Do you understand where cortisol, insulin fit into all these cycles? These are the things that we need to be mindful of and need to be helping our clients to understand and learn about so that they can make good decisions for themselves going forward. Can I just get a quick yes or no? I mean, I'm pretty sure I will be you know, preaching to the choir here, but can I just get a quick yes or no if this is pretty much all making sense so far? Yeah, excellent. Okay, fantastic. So question, can I mention it's on you mentioned cortisol. Please can I expand on that? And what are the three top things that manage, three things to manage glucose spike? No. So yeah, good question. So cortisol is a massive topic that we cover in each of the courses that we do. And it's an area where we need to understand what cortisol is, how it impacts in different ways in the body. And, you know, for different people, depending on the circumstances, there's going to be different answers to that question. So we maybe let's go through the rest of the slides and let's see what we've got time to come back to at the end. So I keep alluding to this. The future of menopause support is absolutely personalised, and one of the aspects, as I said, is definitely speaking to our doctor, our family practitioner, and speaking to them and understanding what the options for treatment pathways from their perspective is. And when we're working with individuals, it's how do we support them using our own area of expertise, being mindful that we are one of many potentially people that is going to help them through their menopause transition. So everything from peri to postmenopause. We need to be really cognizant that each individual is going to have different families set up, different genetics, are going to live in a different part of the country or the world with a different support system around them. They may or may not be working, they may or may not have children, they may or may not have other caring responsibilities. They may or may not have access to different food types. So we need to think about the whole individual and think about what is going to be helpful for them going forward. Do they need, you know, where do they need to start? What's the first thing for them to think about? How can you best help and support them to create their own personal menopause plan going forward? The other thing to think about is, you know, what sort of tools have you got at your fingertips? What have you got access to help support your client? What resources have you got to be able to assess with them what is going to be the best first step forward? Looking at who their network is, what help and support have they got available, looking at how they can create a personalized plan going forward. Now, I'm not talking here about anything medical because again, we should be referring to the doctor for anything in that space. But what are the other things that they can be looking at? Now, I just realized I haven't included in the slide deck, which is one thing that I did want to cover, which is the menopause plan itself. And that is taking people through an entire structured journey whereby we're first of all building our clients' knowledge so that they know what menopause is, they understand what the changes are that are going on in their body, whether it's a medical menopause, a surgical menopause, a natural menopause, their premature menopause, their early menopause, or they have gone through the kind of classical, you know, 45 to 55 if they're in the UK menopause. So we also have to be mindful that people be in menopause like states for different reasons. So they may have had treatment for endometriosis, for example. So there are lots of different reasons why someone can end up in menopause. So we want to look at the individual, their entire set of circumstances and what's going to be right for them. So building knowledge, first of all, embracing the right mindset. You know full well that when you are feeling upbeat, happy, and positive, life feels good. And your ability to cope and manage is a lot higher. We also know that when we're going through menopause, life doesn't always feel quite so rosy. And that's probably why most of us are here just now, because either we've got firsthand experience or someone we know has got firsthand experience of not feeling that things are going terribly well, of not feeling in control, of not having the kind of confidence or competence that we're used to having. And therefore, we need that additional help and support. So building the knowledge, getting the mindset right are two critical elements that I always think are really fundamental, no matter who, you know, what capacity that you're working in with a client, with a colleague. Those two things, getting that knowledge and that mindset in the right place is fundamental because that will set you and your client up for success to work together going forward. After that, my next thing is a super simple, basic thing that I always come back to, which is hydration. So tell me in the chat, how do you feel when you're not particularly well hydrated? Drop me a couple of words in the chat box and let me know, how do you feel when you're not well hydrated? Crappy, tired, sluggish, lethargic, sleepy, headachy, distracted, moody, headachy, tired, grumpy. Yeah, absolutely. Tired, anxious. Look at all the things that are impacted by us not being well hydrated. Lethargic, hungry for chocolate. Yeah, absolutely. So being even under 1% dehydrated has an impact on our mood, on our ability to process information, our cognitive function, our joints are bloated, our ability to digest foods and have a bowel movement. So all of these things will lead back to us not operating at our optimal level. So the next simplest thing is to invite someone to bring their consciousness to what are they doing to boost their hydration or reduce their hydration. What's their caffeine intake like, their alcohol intake like? Are they actually drinking, for example, are they having other drinks during the day? Are they drinking water? Have they always got a water bottle or something handy to keep them topped up? Are they conscious of when the weather's hotter or they're in an air conditioned environment that can have an impact on their hydration levels as well? So we've got knowledge, mindset, hydration, and then we look at nutrition. So are people nourishing themselves with positive relationships? Are they nourishing themselves with good, healthy foods? And we've got a whole process around that we learn in the courses that I go through. But fundamentally, we're looking on stripping back processed foods. We're looking at stripping out processed sugars and just mindful of how different foods are making us feel. And we've got a process that we go through to enable people to figure that out for themselves. So none of this is about being the sugar police or the alcohol police. It's about opening up the opportunity and creating a framework for people to find out what works for them, because there is no one size fits all with this. And that's why, you get a whole bunch of people jumping in a bandwagon with diet X and someone else going on diet Y, and then people arguing about what the right thing is. The reality is the majority of diets are either switching around what food groups you're eating in what order, they are about elimination or restriction, or they are about the time between eating as well. And one of the things I've noticed over 10 years is that by maintaining a fairly steady blood sugar level, has got very beneficial impacts on how people feel. But again, there is absolutely no one way to make sure that you do that. I know what works for me. I can share that. But actually, what's much more powerful is I give you a framework so that you find out what works best for you. And this is what I was referring to yesterday when I was talking about, you know, I was talking about us wanting to help other people because we've had a negative experience or we've witnessed a negative experience about someone else. So it's really important that we think about what is right for a client or a colleague, and we don't just share what's worked well for us or what we've read in a book, because there is so much that we need to be considering or people need to be considering to set themselves up for success going through menopause. Now, the other aspect, this is something that there are many other aspects of thinking about how we can support people through menopause or how people can support themselves through menopause. The world of telehealth and online coaching has absolutely sprung up through the whole time since the pandemic. Well, it's been around since long before then, but since the pandemic, everything went online. A lot of telehealth sprung up. There's some amazing companies in the States that I've been involved with for a few years who have been doing incredible things with health coaches and with online doctor and nursing support for menopause. There are numerous platforms available for convenient access so that you can access someone 24/7. There are a myriad of apps and digital tools. Many of them out there will have a ton of free information that are just really great at helping you track your cycle, help you log your symptoms and start to recognize a bit more information about what's going on. And then there are paid apps as well. Some have support groups, some don't. So some people who are supporting people through menopause will use some of these apps and use some of these platforms to support their clients as well, because they've got useful information. And the other side of that is wearable technology. I wear an Oura ring. I haven't got it on, but I also have an Apple Watch because I like to know what I like to monitor what's going on. Now, none of these are accurate. Let me just tell you that here and now. They're not accurate. That's not what's important. What's important is that you start to see trends and you want your trend to go in the right direction. So if you are at X and the ideal is Y, then if you're moving in the right direction, then you know that you're doing the right things. And if you're moving the wrong direction, then it can be really helpful to give you pause for thought. There is a flip side to technology and a flip side to apps that people can get stressed using them. people can get worried and paranoid that their metrics aren't going in the right direction. So again, these things are really important to think about. Who is the client you're working with? What impact are these things having on them? And are they useful or are they not useful? So there's so many different things that we can use to get great feedback about our blood pressure, our VO2 max, and all our other kind of our systems, to just keep an eye on, what our sleep numbers are. Are we getting some deep sleep? Are we sleeping to get restorative sleep? Are we, are we actually in bed for a long enough time to get half decent night's sleep if we're getting some sleep? So there's lots of available technology out there, and this doesn't even begin to touch on some of the other types of technology, the biotechnology, which is available, where people are now looking, and have been for quite some time, looking at taking cells from the ovaries and freezing them and then reimplanting when we get to perimenopause, and then delaying or even preventing us going through menopause further down the line. So there's a lot of technology out there. There's a lot of medicine, pharmacology, can't even say the word today. There's a lot of medicines in test that are coming down the line to help treat specific symptoms rather than just hormone replacement or menopause hormone treatment. There's a lot of stuff in development. So again, who are your sources of information? How are you keeping yourself up to date and abreast of what's going on? And all of these things are things that you really should be considering and be mindful of when you are thinking about going through the process of setting yourself up to support someone going through menopause. Now, I'm not going to tell you all these stories, but I've worked with obviously a huge number of people and supported them personally to go through their menopause transition. Typically, I tend to work with my client group tends to be senior executives, often in financial services or legal or other male-dominated industries, sometimes oil and gas, variety of industries, but typically they tend to be the majority just because they're most closely aligned to my own background. And these are the kind of key takeaways that I get from people, um, just moving from a place of feeling completely out of sorts. Alex, phenomenal woman who actually had periods of psychosis, and through working with her family, with her work team, and with her mental health team and myself, she moved from periods of psychosis into actually going for promotion and totally thriving again, loving life again, and having a really good work-life balance. Um, Alison, as former colleague of mine, and she realized that, she was actually in a position where she wasn't being valued for the work she did. And she was basically doing the job of two people because she'd allowed it to happen. And she was so good at her job that she could do it, but it was having a really massive cost on her health and her family life. And when menopause came along, it was like the final straw that broke the camel's back. And just by going through the program, going through that menopause plan together, she was able to kind of get a new role and get herself back to a place where she was in control of her life rather than everyone else in her life being in control of her. So it's magical. It's absolutely magical when you can be that person who can be that background support person for somebody to help them successfully navigate their way through menopause. And the feeling that I get, and I know you must get too, when you support someone, you see them coming out the other side completely thriving and flourishing, is magical. It's just magical. So there are clearly, these are things that I can offer, but there are many other ways that you can go and train, that you can go and build up your knowledge. There are plenty of courses out there. I have done the majority of the menopause coach courses because I'm always curious to see what else is on the market. So you want to know about any of them, I can probably give you an opinion, but always best to go to the source. We run a menopause champion certificate. It's a half-day workshop. It's predominantly for people who work in large organizations to support colleagues by listening and signposting. We launch on Friday the menopause mentor course. That starts this Friday. You get one lesson a week. You do a bunch of case studies, you do a lot of learning, but it's self-paced because we recognize that not everyone can fit a regular time every week to come along. I personally prefer to learn in a group environment, and I prefer community. So I wrapped a community around that. So there will still be access to community with the Menopause Mentor course. And then the Menopause Coach Diploma, which I've been running for quite some time now. We run that twice a year. It's an 18-week diploma program, and it runs from 2 to 4 UK time, 9 to 11 US time, East Coast US time. And we have those 2 cohorts a year. So the next one will be in September. I think I was quoted yesterday as saying 2 to 4 on a Friday afternoon is absolutely my favorite time of the week. I just love running that program. You do not need to have done any of those courses as prerequisites for the other. They're actually standalone. So a champion is very much the person who can listen out for, hold a conversation at work, and help somebody get access to the right help and support. They can do much more than that with the qualification, but the intention is really for someone who's in an organization to be able to help colleagues. The mentor is for someone who wants to just have the occasional conversation, support someone else through menopause, and maybe use their own experience, but in a mentor capacity. So from a professional point of view with a mentor hat on, yes, they can use their own experience. Yes, they can chat through with someone about the best way forward, but we go into quite a lot of background on menopause, and we also go into like proper mentor training as well. The Become a Menopause Coach diploma covers everything that's in the champion, everything that's in the mentor, and it's delivered live. We have a whole range of experts that deliver in that, and all 3 have 12 months ongoing support and community. Because a bit like learning to drive a car, you don't get your knowledge and then suddenly go out there and be an expert in that area. You will come across things that you want to get additional help and support with. So that's why we have that individual that ongoing 12-month support. So collectively, we're all here because in some way, shape or form, we're going to be shaping the future of menopause support. And the kind of 3 kind of things I want to leave you with today are, one of the things that is so crucial and fundamental is about building a support network. You need a support network. You need a network of people you can refer your clients to as well, because you will not be the person that can have all the answers for all the questions. It's just not possible. So collaboration, know your local doctors, know how people in different countries can find and access menopause trained doctors, know where you can get support groups from. Find opportunities for advocacy. Where can you go out and talk about menopause and raise awareness? There's so many different things that we can do so that we can break down the stigmas, bust the myths, and actually get some factual information out there. How are you going to stay informed? So what are your sources of support going to be? Where are you going to get your research? What reading are you going to do? How are you going to keep that ongoing? So are you going to keep a schedule that once a month, once a quarter, you dig into some up-to-date research, or you read the latest book? What are you going to do? How are you going to do that? And then the third one really is about having real clarity on your expertise, knowing where your expertise starts and stops, and being confident to refer to somebody else when a client presents with something that you can't personally help with. That is so important. I sometimes have conversations, well, too often have conversations with people where they've been working with a practitioner, and that practitioner has tried to answer all their questions or give them information, but actually it's been outside of that individual's expertise, and perhaps they haven't received the best possible information. So it is really important that we recognize what we bring to the party. And that's why I go right back to number 1 and building a support network, support for you, support for your client, and staying informed and current. It just means we can provide the best help and support for our clients going forward. And this is just always going to be my favorite quote from Alex, because it's probably the biggest transformation I've ever seen in anybody. And again, it was by working in collaboration with her medical team, family, and her work as well. So again, it's just a really good example that it's not just down to us as an individual to help support somebody. It takes a village. So these are the certificate programs we run. Obviously, we do workplace training, talks, and toolkits as well. We've been on the go since 2014. We deliver all around the world. So all the programs, we look at culture, we look at diversity and inclusion. We have that lens, and also we're also being very mindful that menopause is not just experienced by women, but some of our transgender, non-binary, and gender questioning colleagues as well. So if you are interested in one of the programs and you want to have a chat, you can access my diary via that link by just scanning the QR code or take a photograph of it, and you can access my diary to book a time. I'm always happy to have a conversation, to even if we don't work together, just to kind of talk through what might be a really good place for you to go for your next steps. Over 600 people signed up for this. I think there's about 90 something here today. So some people watch back and replay. I am not here to do a hard sell for anybody. There'll be a handful of you that I work with, and the majority of people I won't. But that doesn't mean to say that I don't want to have a conversation and help you figure out what the right way forward is for you. As I said yesterday, with coming up to 1 billion people going through menopause over the next few years, possibly even jumping over to 1.1, 1.2 billion by 2030, I can't touch the size of that on my own. So the more of us out there helping other people, the better. I think that was the end of my slides for today. So let me just have a quick scooby of the chat. Since going through menopause, pasta makes me itch really badly. Isn't that fascinating? Eating healthy and fast has huge impact on my fog brain. Forgetting words, I'd highly recommend. Do you need to have done the mentor course before coaching? No. Sorry to be direct, but what are the costings for each level? So it's not direct, it's important. The investment for the champion course is £450 plus VAT. If you're not in the UK, then the VAT doesn't apply. The mentor program will be £1,950 plus VAT, but it's currently £950. There's £1,000 off because we're just launching on Friday. So that'll be valid for another couple of weeks. Do you already need to be a coach for the menopause coach? No, we teach coaching and listening skills on the menopause coach diploma. Is there a wait list for the coaching course? We are currently enrolling for September, so the enrollment goes via me. So you have to have a chat with me because I want to make sure it's a really good fit. It's important that our style and the way I deliver works for you. And if any of my grads want to talk to that, then that's fine. I met so many. Oh, Claire, I met so many skilled people become menopause coach diploma cohort that have different expertise to me, and I've been able to ask for guidance from them to help my clients. Fantastic. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, where I need to dash off. Amazing. Claire, I heard today that Joe Bruce Research OU has done a lot of research and provided recommendations to companies, government. Yeah, Joe's been working in this area for a long time as well. So yeah, both been doing that for a long time. Just out of curiosity, did Alex experience psychosis before? Good question. So potentially caused by menopause, but I'm not a medic, so it's not a question that I can answer with certainty. Oh, okay, right. That's my chit chat for today. Any kind of thoughts, questions, or feedback from today? So menopause coach is 3,500 plus VAT, and we always do payment plans as well. If I just put women of a certain stage.com. Yes, I did speak to Maria after the call yesterday. Thank you for asking. So I put the website. Do you also include less common symptoms interactions with other conditions in menopause? Is that a question about one of the programs? In which case the answer is we look at menopause in the round and all the different things that are impacted by the different hormones, and therefore we can extrapolate what the different things are that we can go through. Any kind of takeaways from today? Any kind of thoughts, feedback, or aha moments from today's session? I'm just hoping this is the first time I've run this, so I'm curious. Just send me an email. The toolkits are corporate toolkits, so just let me know if that's hydration. Yeah, absolutely. This is just like a one-off thing that I wanted to do. So great, Caroline. Look forward to speaking to you. I'm just doing this as a one-off. So if it's useful, I can refine it, take your feedback, improve it, maybe make it into a shorter one-off session rather than 3 bite-sized sessions. So any feedback is really appreciated, because this is just like it was a bit of a knee-jerk. It's kind of like I started seeing too many things that where I was like going, "Argh." And I just wanted to provoke some thinking. So if this is helpful, let me know. If it's not helpful and I can improve it, give me constructive feedback. I like constructive feedback. I don't mind being criticized, but in a constructive way is always appreciated.
I think this is really useful, Lauren.
Hello. Hi, Heather.
I think having been on the basics course and a little taste of the coaching course, which obviously I'm now going to be, picking up in the September cohort. But I think, awareness is so key in so many areas. And I think it's not just about, the community support, supporting each other, support networks, which is so important to help us feel like, this is normal, what's happening to us, and we're not losing our marbles and not being dismissed and so on. But in every aspect of society, awareness is so poor. And if you find yourself in a sticky situation, so I myself am in a fairly sticky situation at the moment, and I'm just getting blocked on every pass, just being dismissed out of hand, the severity of the symptoms. It's everywhere. And I think the more that we can do to just normalize it and address society's general level of understanding, a little bit more empathy, a little bit more understanding, and then not having to go through, sort of pouring your heart out about everything that's happened at every stage of your life. It's just bananas. And I think, what you're doing, Lauren, is incredible. You're like a hormonal Boudica or something like that, an absolute warrior, and you're just inspiring. And
You.
I thank you.
I look
It's
forward to working with you in September,
actually
Heather. So just coming back to some of the questions. So books. So it depends. There's so many books out there. So this is another thing, right? You need to get to know your clients to know what reading is useful for them. Are they a reader? Are they a podcast person? Are they, a light-hearted reader? They want to dive deep. So, depending what sort of books you want, I always say to people that it's really worth learning about the menstrual cycle before you learn about menopause, because one comes before the other and they impact each other. So I always recommend Dr. Aviva Romm's book, Hormone Intelligence. So Dr. Aviva Romm, ROMM, is a really good book, Paul, if that is a place to start. I've listened to it multiple times on audiobook, and I just think it's a great book because it goes through all the different stages of a woman's life. And I've done a lot of learning from her as well. Um, I actually feel this is going on with me. I never realized I was convinced I had dementia. Yeah, that was my story, and an inability to believe myself that's left me not socializing and feeling useless. Yeah, absolutely. That I didn't go out for 18 months. I made every excuse in the book. My babysitter hasn't turned up. I don't know. I was a magician when it came to excuses about not going out at the last minute. Um, my GP kept wanting to go on antidepressants, which I felt, yeah, absolutely definitely make sure that you are aware of the NICE guidelines. Um, if you're in the UK, and just a quick note, Lindsay, I hear you. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, then I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Oh, okay. Do you also teach how to get clients in your coaching course? Does any of the grads here that want to talk about that, or will I just cover it? So there are two skill sets, and I want to be really clear about this. There's training to be a menopause coach, and there's running a business. They are two distinctly different skill sets. And any program that tells you that they do both in a really short time, I would be asking them lots of very detailed questions about that. So I am teaching you to become a menopause coach. However, I recognize that if you've not got an existing business and you're not running an existing business, you need to know where to go next. So I have a couple of my friends who come along who are experts in their own respective fields. So Jen Grosso, who is a confidence expert, she does an amazing session. So she's a former lawyer, she's an international speaker, she works with all the big brands, and she does a massive session on confidence, both in you and the confidence for your clients. So that's about building you up and getting to a position where you feel confident and competent to take what you've learned in the program and take it out into the world. Then you have Chris Williams, who's a seven-figure coach, and she and I've known each other for years. We trained together, and she has a session where she talks about how you package your program, who you're serving, how you bring people on the buying journey with you. And it's not about, a sleazy, salesy tactic. It's about who are you serving? Okay, my first clients were senior executives in financial services going through menopause, very tight niche. That worked for me, It doesn't mean I don't work with people who work in sports or people who work in other areas, but it just means that people who do work in that area know to come to me. And over the course of time, I've built an international business that does workplace training, I do keynote speaking, and I deliver training sessions where you get to certify yourself to go and do what I do and do it in your own inimitable style. But Chris takes you on that journey of how you bring people along with you and the different touch points and how that happens, so that you're just offering the gift that you've got to help support them going through it. So we do, oh, thank you for sharing the book. So we don't there is no one right way to get clients. I typically will build my bigger business through doing talks. Some people build on social media, some do it by referral, some people do it by cold calling. There's so many different ways. You have to do it in a way that's authentically yours. So we will do a session, we'll do 2 sessions actually, where we set you up for success to get that in place. But we're not going to handhold you to build your business. And I'm just being brutally honest about that, because there are definitely 2 skill sets that are involved. So forgive me if that's something you really want and need. I can introduce you to the right people for it, but it's not the bigger part of what I'm going to be teaching you. The book's been put in. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Claire, and everyone else that's put it in. Debbie, absolutely catch up on Facebook. I recently signposted my cousin to look at hormones, perimenopause, after that's about depression. Should not know, now she can see marked improvement. Amazing. That's such a lovely story. Thank you for sharing. Cool. Have a great afternoon. And see you tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren. Thank
Bye.
you.